Okay, so
Yep.
I'm not here, camera's not here, you're just chatting with Craig.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Craig. Anytime, bud.
Go.
So can you tell us how your open creative space or a makerspace works, or what the rules are of a makerspace?
Well, whenever I talk to kids about when they're coming into a makerspace, there are rules, I say. The biggest rule is that all the mistakes that you can make, I'm going to start with that over again. When I have kids come into a makerspace, I definitely have rules for them. I want them to feel free. So the rules, I say rules, but they're more of unleashing the chains of education that have been put on them for so many years. So my number one rule is you need to make as many mistakes as possible. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. And I truly believe that. And the teachers and the students both start to realize that one big rule as we go through. Another one of the rules is everything you do is great, right? So you need to allow kids to go through a process, and going through a process is dirty. It takes time, and it's not always linear. So that's one of my other big rules. And then the other one is to collaborate, to help each other. In the real world, it's a skill that's super valuable, and the collaboration has to take place. And funny enough, what tends to happen is the collaboration will happen naturally. They want to accomplish a certain task, and they know they need other students to help them out. So they're more than willing to help each other once they get into the space. Usually after those 3 rules, they're excited to go. They want to actually start rolling. Now, the idea, though, is you're going to have an openness to your learning and to what's going on. What I mean by that is that kids are allowed to come in and explore openly. That if they want to take some glue and they want to take some plasticine and mash the two together because they want to make a beautiful sculpture, they have those abilities to do it. I think through them discovering their likes and what they want to do and having that openness, the creativity really starts to flow. It takes time, though, as in all good things. I always talk to teachers before we go into spaces about having the right mindset in the students. And the rules that I just talked to you about touch on those, that an open mindset has to happen if in a creative space so that you can shed fear. Fear of mistakes, fear of not having the right answer, fear of the teacher not approving what you do, or that your peers are not approving what you do. You have to kind of shed all of that when you come into a space so that you can start to figure out who you are. And a lot of these spaces are exactly that. It's helping the kids develop their creativity and figuring out where their passions lie, where their interests lie. And finally, their voice is heard in the learning process, which we don't see oftentimes. A lot of it is what the teacher wants the students to learn. Creative space is not about the teacher at all. It's about the student and what the student wants to learn. And that's really what excites me anyway about learning, that we're finally giving it back to the kids.
Cool. Do you need anything else?
Yeah, that was awesome. But can you tell me about getting unstuck, or the part I like you're talking about not relying on the teacher so much? So I'm on a task, I need to get unstuck, and so tell me about moving to another station possibly, or just some strategies on how can I get unstuck?
Sure. Well, one of the things I talk to kids about right at the beginning when they come into a space, especially if they're new to it, is that I use a video game, that they love to play. And I say, when you hit a wall in this video game, do you just give up? And obviously they laugh at me. They're like, of course not, Chris. Why would I give up? I love this game. I want to keep figuring it out. So then I ask them, well, what do you do? And they can ring off a million different strategies that they have to solve the problems so that they can go on to level 2 of this game that they really love. So I say, take that same mentality. You have these skills, you have these strategies, now I'd apply it to the space. And they're able to do that. A lot of the strategies they have, though, are talking to a friend, so they talk to peers. They might go online, check out a YouTube video. They love that. Something where it's authentic and it's a real for them. I don't want to impose the strategies that I think. I might suggest certain things, but I never tell them what to do. I really want them to feel like that their strategies they use in their real life are valid, even in a learning situation.
Good. Very good. Yeah.
Anything else? Chris, anything else on anything?
Stuff, the teacher piece.
Can you give? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, one thing that I advise all teachers is that if you're going to start changing your practice, you have to do it. We see oftentimes that we'll think about things for a very long time in education. Nothing really changes that much, maybe a few little tweaks. But to really get things going is the teacher has to say, I need to change and I need to give the learning back to the student. Then true learning will happen, and then we'll see lifelong learning happen. If the learning is not given back to the kid does not, it belong to the kid. It doesn't belong to the student. So we want students to feel that their learning is theirs. And to do that is to give it back to them. So a lot of these open spaces are really about saying, it's not about the teacher, it's really about the student. And I have this great quote I love to use to teachers is, oh God, I forgot it. It'll come just a minute.
Yeah.
Yes. I have this really great quote that I love to tell teachers. And it's super simple, but it's a quote that stuck with me most of my career in the change that I've gone through as an educator. And it goes as, less of us and more of them. Meaning that we have to get out of the way more. I think we get in the way of learning too much, and we really have to give it back to the students so that they are at the command of it. Because I'm nervous about the future, frankly. We have a lot of big problems that the world is facing, and the students that sit in front of us every day are going to be the problem solvers of those problems. And we could just talk about global, I mean, just the climate problem. These kids are going to have to solve that problem. And if we're not giving them opportunities to problem solve, to collaborate, to develop skills, and to develop how to learn things, we're in a lot of trouble as a global society. So I really, it's almost like we're on a mission now to take the learning back away from the teachers and give it back to the kids. So I see it as we're building an army of learners. And if we don't start to push that more, I think we all need to be a bit more nervous about where the future is going. But it's not too late. You know, I mean, these kids are brilliant, they're curious, they're creative. It's just tapping into it and making that a center of the learning process, of what they have in them already. It's all there. But if we don't develop it, or we say, well, we're going to fill you with this stuff instead of the stuff inside you, I think we just do a disservice to the students.
Good.
More gold.
I think that's good. Do you need an intro to what the Makerspace is? Like a really brief 30-second intro for a video, for the intro video? Is that even, you kind of touched on it anyway, I think, at the end of the day. I think
Well, I can give
I
mean, a creative space to learn is,
So let's do that.
Yeah.
And just, if you can, keep it a picture. It's the first thing that they're going to see on the video.
Sure,
if possible.
sure,
We'll
sure.
try.
well, a creative space is really hard to describe, first off. It really becomes whatever the school or the center wants it to be, based on the students that are going to be going into this space. So it's hard to say, well, a makerspace is this or this or this. It's really about the learners that are in the space and what interests them. And once you lock into that, you'll have the best makerspace you could ever imagine.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.